But I tell you what, this will be the end of the government if they hold on to it. I'll make that very wild prediction. I'm not normally a Cassandra on this stuff, but I'll tell you why.
This is Funder. When you subscribe, you turn knowledge into money. Auckland is rewriting its future, and most people have no idea it has already begun. Plan Change 120 flips the city's growth pattern on its head. More homes forced into high-value, high-demand areas, a reshaping of neighbourhoods, and that will define Auckland for decades. The Chief Economist's own forecast shows a surge of development toward the city centre, intense pressure on land, and a wave of change that will test every assumption Aucklanders have about livability, affordability, and identity. Maurice Williamson is here. He understands how political decisions collide with economic reality. Maurice, if you had to summarise Plan 120 in a sentence for a non-planner, what changes and why?
Well, there are some good bits to it. It will, first of all, allow you to prevent consents being given in floodplains. We've not been able to do that up till now. So I've seen in this electorate alone, buildings going ahead where we know just a small rain shower and it'll flood. So that'll happen. So there's some good elements to it. It's the driving number at the top of the pyramid that is the big concern. The government have set legislation that says you've now got to make a whole lot of dwellings available so that we don't have house price inflation because of lack of provision of supply. Okay, they've set a 2 million dwellings number. So I ask, where did you get the 2 million? Okay, that's the first important question. And the answer is lame. It's what Labor used to come up with their MDRS, their medium density residential standard that has now been poleaxed. That's no answer to anything. We're using a Labor number from back when they did it wrong. So I said, why don't we do it the other way? Why don't we look at population projections, low, medium, and even the really highest population projections, and then understand that at present there's around about 3 people per dwelling in Auckland, so you've always got to do that 3-to-1 dwellings to people ratio. You don't need anywhere near 2 million, even in the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Now, we did a big project back in 2016 called the Unitary Plan. We finally settled on what areas needed to have development and where and when. A lot of debate, but we finally got it settled. That didn't even last 8 years, let alone the 30 years it was going to be. It was going to be 30 years of 30,000 new dwellings a year, giving you 900,000. Now, I accept there are some more elements that need to be put onto that 900,000. First of all, you don't spend $6 billion on a train set and then not provide it some customers. So you want really intensification and high-rise along the train corridors. And I have told people when I was working in the States as the Court Consul General, if I ever flew into a new city, be it Sacramento or whatever, where I was flying, San Francisco, you could see a big row of tall buildings in a row like a vein and everything else normal. And you realised afterwards that was where the underground rail ran underneath that. So that's a good idea. So we do want more intensification on the rail corridors, on the bus corridors, the new Eastern Busway that's being built out in Pakuranga, a whole range of good things. The worst thing about that 2 million is that it drives intensification right deep down into small suburban streets. And it doesn't need to, because we will never need that many properties. If you put 2 million into the market, you need 6 million people, which we're not going to have. So the government have forced this on us. It's by law. We've got to, you can make submissions on it till the 19th of December. What a dreadful period you've got, almost no time and just on the Christmas rush. And I just don't get it. There's so many people in the National Party saying, what is wrong here? Chris Bishop won't listen. He is adamant the 2 million stands. It's a Labor number from the past, but he's picked it up. Can't justify it, and it will have, I'll tell you the cataclysmic effect it has. You come down into any nice leafy suburb where there's some very valuable property with views and so on. When this PC 120 is finalised, it will allow someone to come into that street, pick one property, build quite a high rise, single bedroom, no car park, cheap as piece in terms of making money, but selling it for quite a profit because of its location, and do detrimental impact on property values right across the street because there'll be cars parked the length of the street because there's no car park. You know that the legislation that's on the books in New Zealand right now, the council cannot demand that you put a car park in any design when you're coming for a consent. If you come for a consent, want to build this building, we can't say you got to have one car park for each unit. That is not allowed.
So they tap into the traffic management side of
And
things.
so if the solution that Bishop could do tomorrow is say, we've overestimated, the 2 million is a rubber number, 1.5 gives them everything they need without coming into suburbia. It does all the major transport corridors, all the rail corridors, all the busways, and big loops around the city, walkable catchments around all the sort of town centres. So, Lynn Mall and St Luke's and Botany Town Centre. I'm okay with big intensification with a walkable catchment. People can live in that that's what happens elsewhere in the world. But I tell you what, this will be the end of the government if they hold on to it. I'll make that very wild prediction. I'm not normally a Cassandra on this stuff, but I'll tell you why. At the last election, in the 22 seats that make up Auckland, National got a 45% of the party vote, and in the other 44 seats, that's 2/3, 1/3, in the 2/3 across the country, in Ashburton, Matamata, Clutha Southland, National Party strongholds, blue ribbon rural, National got 35%.
Yeah.
So Auckland made them the government last time by a long way, and they are wiping out that party vote. Last night at the public meeting I attended in Botany, 2 electorates were covered by the presentation we were doing. Botany and
Luxon's electorate,
the Prime Minister's electorate and Simeon Brown's electorate, the 2 highest National Party vote electorates in the country.
Yeah.
And there was anger of the likes of you've never seen, because the simple thing I put at the end of every sentence as I was presenting was, and they don't need to do this. If you didn't have that, if you said we've got no option, this is an absolute make or break, or else the economy goes, but I'd say, well, it's an ugly decision, but we've got to do it. It is not needed. It will be undone sometime either by whatever the government of the day is or the following one. But and then when I said, well, is that a problem then? Yes, because you can have put one little piece of junk into one street that causes main devalue, but then you unfold it, but you can't undo that bit. So why not get it right from the outset?
And of course, this does impact values of properties. And
hugely.
The government is playing with more levers to impact the values of properties at the same time. Now, we do have a
Well, I want to pick you up on that, because yesterday at question time, there was a phenomenal question from the leader of the Labour Party, Chris Hipkins. He asked Luxon over and over again, which one of you is right? And he quoted Chris Bishop, who keeps saying, I want to see house prices driven down, not just slightly drop, but driven down. Or the Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, who says, I want house prices to not increase any faster than wage growth.
Yeah.
So they're both growing, but wage growth is growing, so that gets you some affordability over time. And Luxon refused in 5 times. It's worthwhile watching the question 2 yesterday at question time. Hipkins kept coming back. Which one of you is right? Because one of you is right and one of you is wrong, and I just want to know which. Is it the Chris Bishop, house prices need to be driven down? Because part of the gloom and doom that's sitting around this economy is people have lost that feeling they've got some wealth to them, because their real central part of their wealth has been dramatically devalued already. And in Auckland, if PC 120 goes through with Bishop's 2 million, you will see greater devaluation of property values.
Yeah. So summing up the pros of it, we want to have intensification, terrace housing, apartment housing around those major corridors.
Yep.
But having those rules kind of flow out into the suburban areas away from those main transport routes. That is the current plan, unless they make and receive submissions and change the design of it.
Yes, the legislation they have already passed forces that. It isn't like it's a choice or the council's deciding to do this. It actually forces us to get the 2 million dwellings availability. You've got to almost come, if you take an electorate like where we are here, it almost goes right down to the water everywhere. Down where I live in Fisher Parade, it comes right down to the water now, where you can build big high-rise intensification. We're not on any transport route. We're not nearby a major bus corridor or a train. We don't even have trains out this part of the world. So it's lunacy. And what I don't get is, instead of Bishop saying the 2 million is there because, and then gives a really erudite discourse about why it's needed, and if you back off that a bit, because it only needs to be backed off to about a 1.5, and which, remember, we were at 900,000 with the unitary plan, so you're still getting 600,000 more, but you're going to get them in the town centres, walkable catchments, you're going to get them down the CRL train corridors and the big dedicated busways like Eastern Busway, Northern Busway. So if he stays If he digs his toes in as he's done and refuses to back off, I'll make you the wildest prediction. National Party's vote will be more like the 35 it was around the rest of the country, and they can't be in Auckland, and they can't be government if that's their party vote here.
Yeah. And how is council reacting on the Auckland transport and the water care side of things? Because that will obviously create a constraint.
Well, correct. I mean, the water care thing's really incredible. I've got a couple of maps which I can send you if you want to put them into the presentation. A map that water care produced in December of 2024, a year ago. And in there's a grey area called Hauak Pakuranga down to Botany. Total restrictions availability of both water and wastewater. It's the only part of the whole of Auckland where it had both with real constraints on it. 5 months later, they produced the new map and we were fine. So when the officials came before the council, I asked this question. How could a map go from we're the only one in Auckland with serious constraints on water and wastewater, and now we don't? How many billions have you invested in pipes and pumping stations and so on in that 5 months in order to clear our... The answer was, we've gone back and recalculated. What does that mean? What methodology did you use and what did you change to? It's not like that simple. Now, the first thing that does means that if they ever come to us with a set of maps or graphs in the future, we can just say, well, hang on, they'll all change. We can't take them for granted at any rate because you'll only change them. And so it was the lamest excuse I've ever heard as to why they would... It was published in the Herald, these maps about how much constraint we've got for infrastructure. Now, I'm on the board of Auckland Transport, and I can tell you we've got huge constraints in our roading network infrastructure. You put this level of intensification into suburban streets, you won't cope with it. You just simply won't cope with it, and it will be a disaster for everybody. Go back to the major corridors, build high-rise, have everybody that wants to live on a train line or whatever get away without even owning a car, and everyone will be happy.
Appreciate your insights on the plan change, and we'll wait to see what submissions get picked up and either ignored or adopted. And
so let me leave you that last sentence. They will either have to step back from this, or it will cost them the next election.
Maurice Williamson, Auckland Councillor, and you've been there and done that. Let's see if your prediction's right. Most people treat their KiwiSaver the way they treat an old photo album. They know it exists, they know it matters, they never bother to open it. And that small act of neglect can cost them more than they realize. If you want clear, simple guidance on choosing the right fund provider and the right type of fund, you can talk to Wealth HQ without paying a cent. Maybe you like the thrill of crypto. Maybe you want nothing to do with investments that profit from conflict. Maybe you just want a sense of control over where your money goes. Wealth HQ strips the uncertainty out of the process. If you want to understand your options, the link below will take you there.